Hi guys, welcome back to Movie Recap. In this video, I'm going to recap one of the films from 2022, The Accursed. Without any further, let's get started. The film opens on a stormy night. A young girl named Sadie is seen carving a crucifix into a tree with a knife. Her mother, Mary, approaches and leads her away, warning her not to come inside until the screaming begins. Mary enters the house and the door shuts on its own behind her. Inside, Mary notices a painting of an elderly woman. Moments later, strange noises echo through the room. Suddenly, the woman from the painting appears beside her, takes a photograph, and orders Mary to sit. Mary explains that she is suffering from a curse. The witch demands blood, and after Mary provides it, she makes a desperate wish. She wants the devil himself to possess the blood's owner so they can both be condemned to hell forever. The witch instructs Mary to find that person once the ritual is complete. She hands her a knife and tells her to wait for the point of no return, explaining that Mary will know the moment when she sees the demon's 3 fingers emerging from the victim's mouth. At that moment, Mary must carve a crucifix into the flesh of the throat. The witch drinks the blood and begins summoning the demon. The candle suddenly goes out, and the witch says they must wait for the devil to relight it himself. When the flame returns, she hears the buzzing of a fly she cannot see. Realizing too late what has happened, the witch understands that she has been cursed. The blood was her own. Mary reveals that Sadie secretly took the witch's blood while she slept. She attacks the witch, saying this is for her husband, Thomas, and carves a crucifix into her throat. Sadie enters the house, but the witch overpowers Mary and grabs Sadie as the demon begins to emerge from her mouth. In a desperate act, Sadie bites off one of the demon's fingers, causing the witch to scream in pain. Mother and daughter escape the house, and outside, Sadie shows Mary the severed finger. 3 months later, Ellie is introduced. She has returned home after her mother's death, planning to sell the house and move back to Haiti. Her friend Beth visits and promises to help her the next day. After Beth leaves, Ellie hears herself humming while washing dishes, only to hear the same song playing from inside the house. She shuts off an old phonograph, shaken. Later, Beth calls to inform Ellie that the government has cut off foreign aid to Haiti. The next day, Beth visits again, and they discuss Ellie's future. Beth mentions a blood drive happening the following day at St. Luke's Hospital, and Ellie asks her to sign her up. A neighbor, Miss Dudley, stops by to offer condolences, saying she was the one who found Ellie's mother. Ellie thanks her, but Miss Dudley suddenly turns hostile, accusing Ellie of abandoning her mother just like her father did. She slaps Ellie, claiming she hasn't slept in days and keeps seeing her mother's face.
I keep seeing her face.
After Miss Dudley leaves, Beth reassures Ellie that her choices were normal and healthy, and she shouldn't feel guilty. That night, Ellie discovers an old photo album containing images where her and her father's faces are scratched out, revealing her mother's resentment toward them. Ellie then receives a phone call from a woman named Elma, calling on behalf of Miss Ambrose, who is offering Ellie a job based on a recommendation her mother made shortly before her death. Confused, Ellie agrees to meet. At the hospital the next day, Beth notices a mark on Ellie's arm. Ellie explains that her mother once took her blood. Beth encourages her to accept the job, though Ellie remains unsettled by her mother's involvement. That night, Ellie wakes from a nightmare and senses someone in her room. As she moves toward the bathroom, a shadow passes behind her. She hears her mother calling her name. Terrified, Ellie follows the voice into her mother's room, where she sees her mother hanging from the door. Her mother demands that Ellie look at her and asks why she wasn't there to help, before screaming. The next day, Ellie talks to Beth about what happened. Beth suggests that Miss Dudley may have planted those ideas in her head, but Ellie insists that everything felt real. Just then, the same eerie song begins playing on its own. Ellie tells Beth that it was playing when Miss Dudley discovered her mother's body. Beth urges her to destroy the record, but Ellie says she can't. Instead, she reveals that she has decided to take the job. Beth drives Ellie to Miss Ambrose's house. As they arrive, Ellie remarks that the place feels strangely familiar. Outside, they meet Elma, who welcomes Ellie and explains that the job will last until Monday. When Ellie asks about Miss Ambrose's family, Elma mentions that she has a daughter who left long ago. Elma takes Ellie to meet her patient. Miss Ambrose is revealed to be the same witch from the opening of the film. Afterward, Elma shows Ellie to her room. Once they leave, Miss Ambrose suddenly wakes up, her eyes turning completely black. Later, after Elma and Beth leave, Ellie enters the house alone. She goes to Miss Ambrose's room and introduces herself. While adjusting the blankets, she notices strange marks on Miss Ambrose's feet. Suddenly, Miss Ambrose stirs and Ellie sees something emerging from her mouth. When she wipes it away, it leaves behind a sticky residue. Moments later, Ellie hears her mother calling her name. Frightened, Ellie steps out and shuts a door. In the distance, she sees Sadie standing silently. Ellie notices the same crucifix carved into a tree nearby. She steps on an apple and realizes there are many raw apples scattered around the area. That night, feeling restless, Ellie plays a record on the phonograph, and she later checks on Miss Ambrose and decides to sit with her. Ellie eventually falls asleep, but Miss Ambrose awakens, and a demonic hand begins to emerge from her mouth, slowly reaching toward Ellie's. Just in time, the telephone rings, waking Ellie. It's Beth calling. Ellie tells her she has found several records labeled with the name Dorothy Ambrose and suspects Dorothy may be Miss Ambrose's daughter. While still on the call, Ellie hears her mother's voice again. After hanging up, she hears a noise outside and sees something being thrown against the window. It's an apple with a note that reads, "Get out before the witch burns in hell." When Ellie picks it up, maggots spill out. Terrified, Ellie calls the police. Officer Green arrives and suggests that someone is trying to scare her. He mentions that the house has a long history of superstition and asks why she's staying there. When Ellie explains that she's caring for Miss Ambrose, the officer is shocked and says he believed Miss Ambrose was already dead. The next morning, while jogging, Ellie encounters Sadie in the woods. She tries to speak to her, but Sadie runs away. That night, Ellie hears disturbing sounds coming from the house, followed by whispered incantations. Flies begin pouring out of Miss Ambrose's mouth. Ellie believes Dorothy has returned, but when she enters the room, she finds only herself and Miss Ambrose. The following morning, Ellie wakes from another nightmare and notices that she now has matching scars on her leg. Meanwhile, Beth investigates further with the help of her father. He tells her there is no record of a woman named Elma, only Miss Ambrose and her daughter, Dorothy. He also mentions long-standing rumors surrounding the house and admits he has never seen one of his investigators so shaken. He urges Beth to get Ellie out of there immediately. Mary and Sadie then visit Ellie. Ellie tells Mary she is caring for Miss Ambrose, but Mary insists that Miss Ambrose is already dead. Ellie refuses to believe her. Mary explains that what lies in the back bedroom is a demon trapped inside a human shell. She says she locked the demon and Miss Ambrose together in hell by carving a crucifix into her throat. Dorothy wants her mother freed, but the demon will only release her if it finds another body to inhabit. Ellie still doubts the story and asks why Sadie never speaks. In response, Sadie opens her mouth, revealing the truth. Mary explains that doctors claimed Sadie's tongue had been chewed off in the womb. But Mary knows whatever did it is still inside her. She then reveals the past. Her husband, Thomas, once gave in to temptation with Dorothy. When he tried to end it, Dorothy became obsessed. After he rejected her, she accused him of spreading vile rumors. In retaliation, Miss Ambrose placed a curse on Thomas and his unborn children, making Sadie one of the cursed. Mary explains that their second child, Lily, was weaker than Sadie and died a week after birth. Thomas blamed himself, and one night he came to the cabin and hanged himself from the tree. Mary says she took her revenge, but it isn't finished yet. They plan to burn the cabin down. Beth goes to the hospital and asks a friend to check whether a patient named Ambrose is scheduled to be admitted on Monday. After searching the system, her friend tells her there is no such record. Meanwhile, Ellie is haunted once again by her mother. She follows her voice into Miss Ambrose's room and approaches her bed, attempting to examine the crucifix-shaped mark around her neck, but then backs away in fear. Beth tries calling Ellie, but her phone is unreachable. Ellie later discovers strange symbols carved beneath the carpet, along with a hidden door. She descends with a flashlight, and when she turns on the light, she realizes she is standing in the same ritual chamber seen at the beginning of the film. Inside, she finds a satanic book containing a photograph of Mary, as well as photos of her own parents. She also finds a vial of her blood, but a sudden noise startles her, causing the vial to fall and shatter. At the same time, Beth drives toward the cabin but receives a text from Ellie saying she has returned home. Beth turns her car around and heads for Ellie's house. Back at the cabin, Ellie enters Miss Ambrose's room and sees a crucifix carved into her throat. Terrified, she tries to leave, but her mother's spirit appears and tells her that after Ellie's father abandoned them, they only had each other, and when Ellie left too, she had no choice but to bring her back. Suddenly, the demon begins emerging from Miss Ambrose's mouth, horrifying Ellie. Beth arrives at Ellie's house and hears the shower running. Assuming Ellie is inside, she calls out, but receives no response. Sensing danger, she is suddenly attacked and stabbed. She strikes her attacker with a wine bottle and tries to flee, but is knocked down the stairs and killed. Meanwhile, Officer Green arrives at the Ambrose house after receiving a tip that a woman named Mary plans to burn the cabin that night. He intends to escort her into town. When he asks about Miss Ambrose, Mary insists she is dead, just as a bell rings from inside the house. Officer Green goes to investigate. Ellie tries to warn him that Miss Ambrose is not human, but it's too late. Miss Ambrose appears crawling across the ceiling and attacks him. When Ellie enters the room, she finds Miss Ambrose feeding on the officer's body. Ellie runs outside for help and encounters a female officer, telling her that Miss Ambrose killed Officer Green. Suddenly, Beth's car crashes into the officer, killing her instantly. Ellie pulls Beth from the wreckage and sits down, exhausted. Beth suddenly rises with a knife, but it is revealed to be Elma, disguised in Beth's clothes and wearing a mask. She knocks Ellie unconscious. When Ellie wakes up, Elma takes her blood and reveals the truth. Ellie's mother brought her here years ago to curse Ellie's father. Unable to pay, Mary paid with Ellie's blood. Elma then knocks Ellie unconscious again. When Ellie awakens, she finds herself bound beside Miss Ambrose. Ellie confronts Elma, calling her Dorothy. She tells her she understands what it's like to care for a sick parent and says Mary told her everything. She doesn't blame Dorothy for running away. Dorothy begins the ritual, reading from the satanic book and awakening Miss Ambrose. The demon violently tears its way out of Miss Ambrose's body. Just before it can enter Ellie, Mary arrives and strangles Dorothy until she collapses. Mary begins chanting another spell to banish the demon, causing it to leave Ellie and attempt to possess Mary instead. Ellie frees herself and carves a crucifix into the demon's back with a knife. The demon attacks Ellie and tries to escape, but Sadie sets it on fire. The three of them flee the house as it burns. The demon attempts to stop Ellie by taking the form of her mother, but fails. As the cabin collapses, the demon enters Dorothy's body. Days later, Ellie is working her shift when she is sent to the burn ward. There, she hears the same haunting song. She turns and sees Dorothy among the patients. Ellie learns that every patient in the ward has committed suicide. Horrified, Ellie screams. Thanks for watching, and remember to turn on your notifications to watch more movie recaps like this one.